Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about 5 different Patrik Laine trades that can actually happen. Now this tweet is a couple of days old, but Elliotte Friedman went on Edmonton radio and said that a move for Patrik Laine might be made. Now, he said that contract negotiations are kind of falling through. Patrik Laine wants to play with Mark Scheifele, and Winnipeg and Paul Maurice just will not budge, and they will not let it happen. So, from what he said also that there's something there, it seems like a trade will happen potentially as soon as this offseason. So, what Patrik Laine trade could we see, and what teams will be interested? Watch till the end for all the rumors, all the news, and my predictions. And of course, hit that big red subscribe button for more videos just like this one. Now, if you saw in the last video, we are giving away a Vegas Golden Knights hat for 22K subscribers. Everybody that put Dougie in the comments will be entered. So we're about to see who will win it today and who will get the 22K giveaway reward. And the winner will be Keegan Little. Dougie, I want that hat. Well, Keegan, send me your address, send me your shipping info at nathanmerds@gmail.com. I'll be sure to give it to you. And we'll probably be doing more giveaways in the future, but thanks so much everybody that entered, and Keegan winning that Vegas hat. Big W. Now, before we get into the mock trades and which teams I think could be interested on Laine, we first need to talk about what Laine is as a player and the value he could bring on the open market. Now, this past season, he got 63 points in 68 games, 28 goals, 35 assists. And personally, with Patrik Laine, that was easily the best overall year that I think he's had. Not just in playmaking, but in overall defensive impact. To start out the year, he was actually pretty great defensively, kind of pivoted up a little bit as the year went on, but still a great sign to see from the young forward. Right now, I think he's the type of guy that, even though he hasn't reached that point, still can become one of the top goal scorers in this league. And especially if he's paired with the right center, as we saw with Stastny, who came into Winnipeg that one year, it can be absolutely magical when Laine finds the right guy and they just work off each other so beautifully. In Winnipeg, I think Mark Scheifele could be that guy, but they want to go with the Connor, Scheifele, and Wheeler line, and it just doesn't seem like there's anybody else there that Laine can actually work off of and actually have some offensive output. And that's a tough thing to be at for a young forward that really has the skill to develop into a young goal scorer. It just doesn't seem like that's going to actually happen with the Winnipeg Jets, especially if he doesn't get any playing time with Mark Scheifele. But there is quite a few teams out there that obviously would love to have Patrik Laine, but I think would be beautiful fits in terms of giving stuff back to Winnipeg that they would actually want. Now, first and foremost, I think obviously defense is a priority, but don't be surprised if the main piece in the Patrik Laine trade is a second line center, and an actual bona fide one. Not an Adam Lowry or whatever, an Andrew Kopp, an actual second line center who can get the job done and produce in both sides of the ice. I think that's what they're looking for, and also a top 4 defenseman, obviously, hopefully would be a part of the deal if Winnipeg were to pursue something like that. And that leads me to my first trade proposal in today's video involving the Carolina Hurricanes and the Winnipeg Jets. Now, this is easily the biggest blockbuster one I have right now, but I feel like this is a trade that, when it's all said and done, can benefit both teams involved. For this trade to the Carolina Hurricanes, Patrik Laine in exchange for Dougie Hamilton. Now, in this trade scenario, Dougie Hamilton re-signs with Winnipeg, so don't worry about that. But both of these players have 1 year left on their deal for 2021, Laine RFA and Hamilton a UFA. But I feel like this is a trade that can benefit both teams involved here. Dougie Hamilton, to me, is a top 10 defenseman in this league. Offensively, one of the best, and defensively is pretty underrated right now. He's more on the average side, but gets a lot of crap that I don't think he's really too deserved. I think that's a guy that would be perfect for that Winnipeg blue line and would do so much damage on that power play, it's not even funny. And then you have Patrik Laine, who could be a part of the first line finish line of Teravainen, Aho, and Patrik Laine. That would be absolutely amazing to see, and I feel like he would also do amazingly on Carolina, especially on the power play, where you got great playmakers once again, like Tavo, like Aho that can just work off him so beautifully. A guy like Sebastian Aho is the center that Laine needs. I think it worked out great for Carolina long term especially, and for Winnipeg, I mean, it looks like with their core, with guys like Blake Wheeler getting more up there in age, they'll want a more contend side of things, and with Dougie Hamilton, he's in his mid-20s, he's still in his prime 100%. If you can sign him long term, that's a player that will be an absolute rock on that blue line and will be awesome for years to come. And then going on to my second trade proposal, this one involving the Montreal Canadiens. And it seems like whenever Patrik Laine is in trade rumors, Montreal is always in the mix, which is kind of interesting, don't you think? But there was rumors of him being offer sheeted by Montreal. That obviously did not happen. Still on Winnipeg, of course. But I feel like Montreal will be a super interesting fit for Patrik Laine. I'm not sure if he's actually a true fit there because he can be pretty inconsistent, and we saw how that worked out with Max Pacioretty, how basically everyone turned against him because of that. So I'm not sure if he's the perfect fit there, but in terms of just raw production, in terms of raw goal scoring, that's the type of guy that I think will work beautifully on their center, besides their center core, with guys like Suzuki and Kotkaniemi coming up. Now, I discussed a few weeks back about the potential of Max Domi going to Winnipeg and being their second line center, and I still think that's quite a good fit, and that's why I have Montreal still in this top 5, because I feel like a trade involving Max Domi and Laine can get done. Now, I discussed that trade offer with Nikolai Ehlers in mind, not Patrik Laine, and I feel like if Montreal's going to get Laine, they're going to have to give up more than just Max Domi. Now, when it comes to actually the proposed trade, I have, of course, the Montreal Canadiens getting Patrik Laine. In exchange, Winnipeg Jets receive Max Domi. They end up getting Victor Mete, a 2021 second round pick, and a 2021 sixth round pick. Now, there is a lot that goes into this trade, but I feel like for Montreal, it does make sense for them, especially long term, I would say. With Max Domi, they might not keep him this offseason. We've heard a lot of rumors surrounding him. He could be gone, and for Winnipeg, it would be a beautiful fit as that second line center. I think it would be great for them. You have also Victor Mete, who they just signed Edmondson, so even if a Max Domi trade doesn't happen, I think Mete's probably gone, sadly. I think he'd be a great fit on that Jets defense. You also got the couple of selections. You got the second round pick, just to add a value on top of that 6 already. I think this makes sense, and again, I don't think you're going to be able to just give up Max Domi for Patrik Laine for one. I don't see that happening. But Victor Mete is a guy that I think can become a top 4 defenseman for Winnipeg, and you have those picks on top of it. I think a deal could get done, especially if Winnipeg feels like Max Domi is their guy on that second line center spot. Now, in terms of consistency, I'm not sure if he's going to be the greatest fit on Montreal, just because the media is going to be all over him. But in terms of the roster, I think it makes a lot of sense. You could have him instantly as the first line right winger, then have Brendan Gallagher on the second line, which would be nasty, by the way. But then you could have the future first line of maybe Caulfield on the left wing. You have Nick Suzuki and Patrik Laine, and that would be just insane. And think about also the possibilities on the power play. The Habs power play has struggled at points for the last couple of years, but Patrik Laine is a guy that can bring a whole new danger and a whole new element to that power play that they just really didn't have before. I feel like with Patrik Laine, he would be a pretty solid fit on Montreal, and again, if you're looking for goal scoring, he's one of the best players out there and potentially available. And for the Montreal Canadiens, yes, Max Domi would be a rough go to have to give up, but if you're just looking for goal scoring, especially on the power play, that's the type of guy that can fix a lot of problems. Now going on to the third trade proposal for Patrik Laine, and this is the only central team I have in this top 5, but I feel like they could work off each other very well, that being the Nashville Predators. Now I feel like the Preds have a lot of assets that Winnipeg could really use. Now, first off, there could be another separate trade offer that revolves solely around Mattias Ekholm, but I feel like Nashville still wants to really contend, and I don't think that Ekholm's going to be a guy they would give up too easily. So maybe it would be Ekholm 1-for-1, or maybe Nashville would want more on top of that as well. So it'd be an interesting trade there. I think they'll go for a more subtle route, and they will go for a lot of different assets. I feel like for Nashville, in a trade like that, Winnipeg, of course, or Nashville would get Patrik Laine. In exchange, Winnipeg will get Kyle Turris, Kalle Jankrock, Yannick Weber, You also have Frederic Allard, defensive prospect, and a 2021 first-round pick. Now, there's a lot to grasp here. You have Kyle Turris, who has a $6 million cap hit. I feel like that's one of the big things that goes back to Winnipeg. They're able to get something like that back, but they're able to get a first-round pick as well on top of it. With Kyle Turris, that's an interesting fit because I feel like in Winnipeg, they have some fantastic wingers that he can work well around, and that's the type of guy that since he went back to Nashville from Ottawa, just has not really been the same player. And I feel like in Winnipeg, back in Canada, something might click there. And if he does, that's a pretty solid second line center solution. But you also got Jan Krok, who is a solid, wonderful middle six forward, who I think will be doing some great damage with Winnipeg alongside Kyle Turris potentially. You have Jan Weber, solid top six defenseman, but also Frederic Allard, who is honestly a pretty underrated defensive prospect, a guy who could be a fifth, fourth defenseman potentially for Winnipeg, and of course that first round pick on top of it. I mean, this is a pretty fair trade for both sides. Might be a little bit too much for Nashville to give up, but again, they're getting rid of that Kyle Turris contract, which is pretty huge for them, and they're getting Patrik Laine, who they have been searching for a big-time goal scorer ever since Victor Arvidsson really wasn't the same this year, and I feel like Patrik Laine as a first-line right winger, put him alongside Matt Duchene, will work out pretty well for the Preds. Now, I don't think I mentioned it today, but I do want to also say that these trades might not actually happen, so there you go. I said it can happen, it probably won't, but we'll see. If you think my trade proposals are too much, too little, everything in between, let me know down in the comments. Keep it respectful, I beg, but I'll be commenting back, don't you worry. Roast me all you want. I'm totally here for it. And that leads us to the fourth trade proposal that I have for Patrik Laine. This one involving the Columbus Blue Jackets. And I think the Columbus Blue Jackets are one of the most underrated teams going into this offseason, not in terms of their roster, but in terms of moves that they could be making. We heard some big-time rumors that they were wanting to add some more, not just more skill, but a lot more skill to their team. That came with guys like Jesse Puljujarvi in the rumors there. And I feel like Columbus is a sneaky team in that respect. They do want to add some skilled players because they got quite a bit of cap space, quite a bit of stuff to work with, and a lot of assets too, especially on their team already. And I feel like that's a team that could really shake things up this offseason and look completely different next year. And Patrik Laine would certainly make that team a lot more scary too. Now, going back to the Winnipeg Jets is Ryan Murray, Alexander Wenberg, Dean Kukan, and a 2022 second round pick. And I feel like this fills a lot of holes for the Winnipeg Jets. They get Ryan Murray, who when healthy is a very solid defenseman who I think can play well in that top four. You also have Alexander Wenberg, who's been kind of snake bitten since around 2017, hasn't really been himself, but maybe in more playing time, maybe as a second line center role in Winnipeg, he can kind of return back to form with some great wingers right beside him. You have Dean Kukan, who I think is a top six defenseman, solid guy, nothing too major though, and of course that second round pick in 2 years. But Ryan Murray and Wenberg are the two main pieces there. They might be able to add maybe a couple more prospects on top of that, but I feel like that's the main thing that Winnipeg could get back. And again, if Ryan Murray stays healthy and Wenberg comes back to form, that could be a pretty great trade for the Winnipeg Jets. It might not happen because they might ask for more futures, more draft picks, potentially maybe even a better prospect as well on top of that. But I feel like for Columbus, they have the assets to give if that's the case. But I feel like they have a lot of extra players that Winnipeg would just love to have. And again, that center group is kind of interesting because they don't really have a standout guy besides Dubois, but they just got a bunch of centers that could fill the role that Winnipeg needs. And Patrik Laine on Columbus would be pretty sweet. You could put him on that right wing, you could put him with Dubois, and just see how that works. I don't think in Columbus' system, Patrik Laine would thrive like you would on a team like Carolina, but that's the type of team that does have some great playmakers on it and can use that amazing sniper, that amazing goal scorer that Patrik Laine can be. I mean, Columbus' power play was just horrible this past season, and Patrik Laine going to that team could fix some pretty massive holes that Columbus has. Now going on to our last trade offer here today, last trade proposal, fifth team. This one will be the Calgary Flames. Winnipeg with Calgary, Canadian team with Canadian team. And I feel like Calgary has a couple of big assets that Winnipeg would love to have. For the Calgary Flames, they will get Patrik Laine, and in exchange, the Winnipeg Jets will receive Noah Hanifin, Mikael Backlund, and a 2021 second round pick. I almost said Granlund there, my apologies. But when it comes to the Winnipeg Jets, I feel like this is a pretty solid trade to get back, at least when you're looking at the holes that it could fill. Now, Mikael Granlund, I think, Mikael Backlund could be a pretty solid fit as a second line center. Strong defensive abilities overall in his career, and offensively still has a lot to give. I think you have that 2021 second rounder. Noah Hanifin is a big risk in Calgary. He's just not figured it out whatsoever, but a former top 5 pick, a guy that could figure it out in the Winnipeg system. I mean, you again saw guys like Neil Pionk doing that. Maybe Noah Hanifin follows the same route. And I feel like for Winnipeg, those are some holes that are filled. But for the Calgary Flames, that's a first line right winger that could be there with Sean Monahan. Maybe you have Elias Lindholm as a second line right winger. There would be a little bit of a hole to fill as a second line center, but I feel like Dylan Dubé could be that guy. Maybe they transition him to the second line center spot and train him that way. I don't think for Calgary it'd be ideal to lose Backlund, but you get Patrik Laine, who's a supreme goal scorer, and there's some great playmakers on that team. I think that power play would be would have a much upgraded power play and would look a lot more clean going into next season. The defense might take a little bit of a hit with Noah Hanifin, but you get a pretty big cap hit off the books as well there, on top of Mikael Backlund. I am so sorry. And Calgary's able to spend more. I think this also might be a part of a Jacob Markstrom signing. More cap space on top of that will give them a little bit more wiggle room, and also Patrik Laine coming in. I think Calgary's going to be very active anyways, but Patrik Laine could be a pretty great fit, and for the Winnipeg Jets, not the worst trade in the world. I personally want to do it since I think Backlund's kind of more past his prime, and Noah Hanifin's still a big wild card, but for the Calgary Flames, not too bad, I must say. But let me know down in the comments what you agree and disagree with. Roast me all you want. Let me know what your trade proposal for Patrik Laine would be if you want him on your favorite team, or what trade do you think will actually happen? Where do you think Patrik Laine will go this offseason if we do in fact see a trade? Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're new, and hit that notification as well. Share this video with your friends, get it out there, and click on this card right here to watch all of my predictions and picks videos right away in the playlist. My name is Nathan. I'm having the hiccups right now, and I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.